Okay, so my talk is on visualizing wiki, and my name is Cariaso, or Mike. Mike, I'm from Wikipedia. I think you get the idea that what I want to stress is actually that wiki is sort of experiencing for me a bit of a case of tunnel vision. I can see the 0th degree, I can see the page I actually want to look at. I can ask what links here and see pages that talk about my page, but I can't see what links to what links here, and I sometimes need that sort of a context. So if you imagine each one of the pages in your wiki as a dot in this network, and a link between them as a line, you can make some sort of a graph. There's spring layout algorithms that treat that as weights and springs, and they spread out naturally and try and find some sort of a distribution. The Gene Wiki, which is putting every single human gene into Wikipedia, has tried to use this to go ahead and see the connections between genes, proteins, and important related topics, and used a tool called Cytoscape to do their actual alignment. And this is what they produced. It's called the Gene Hairball. And Benjamin's comment was pretty, I think. Now what can we do with it? So I think everybody knew it wasn't actually all that useful. And on Wikipedia, we've tried to do some similar stuff with some of the reports. Here's what happens when I do a force spring layout for about 10 different pieces of information. They all separate out. You can see that diabetes relates to a particular place in the DNA. That relates to heart disease and coronary artery disease. That relates to something else. And you keep walking through the network. But when you go to 20 things, or then 40 things, or the 25,000 things we'd like to deal with, it just turns into the hairball again. So a guy named Martin Kraswinski does bioinformatics and visualization very heavily, and worked on a tool called Circos. It does these sort of really beautiful layouts. And besides being beautiful, there's really a tremendous amount of density you can pack into those graphs for communicating information. He was somewhat embarrassed, I think, by how the Gene Wiki hairball actually looked, and wanted to promote his tool as well, and put together this visualization. You can see all the different trends. I'll zoom in one section here, and you can really see up close that Renolin here is connected to a particular user named Copper Kettle. Electronica does something we saw up above, and all the other connections are there in place. And I started playing with the same thing. If you want to see some of these images, that's a local IP address for my machine. You're welcome to see lots of images in there. But I went through and wrote a bot that looks at the Berlin page of Wikipedia, identifies certain key concepts. Lisbon, Kiev is over here. Where's the bear? I remember seeing the Kreuzberg, in fact, where we are, and then Newt, the polar bear, got picked up in this particular graph. And then for doing Miami, there's instead a bunch of TV channels that I recognize. And West Kendall, Florida is about where I grew up, and other ideas for important concepts that link to this in Wikipedia. Same thing for Bangkok, Yerevan, other sorts of cities. And there's a little overweighting of certain concepts that are too popular and too connected into Wikipedia. But I think further refinements could improve that just fine. My interest was instead not just linking general concepts, as you see here in green, but instead linking them to positions actually in the DNA. And so each one of these here is a different human chromosome, X and Y. We take a single concept, there's this sort of gene thing called 5-HTT-LPR. And you'll see connections off to somewhere on chromosome 12 and somewhere on chromosome 17. And that's a 1-degree link. If I go to a 2-degree link, I take all of those things and ask, what do they connect to? And so the links that you saw to 12 and 17 here really don't show up that well. But there's some lighter gray lines that connect back to other things. So you might not have known that 5-HTT-LPR somehow relates to obsessive-compulsive disorder, serotonin, social anxiety disorder, and other related topics. And that's not visible in a 1-degree sort of thing. So if I take the concept of allergies, it connects out to various places, comes back, and you see asthma, rhinoport, rhinosinusitis, and eczema, related medical conditions and medical treatments. Same applies for weight management, addiction. With addiction, you start off with addiction here, alcoholism, certain genes, dopamine, methadone. And this is more of the kind of information I really wanted to see. All of this was done with about 700 lines of Perl. It crawls any wiki from the outside and just keeps asking, what's the page text, what links here, gathers the data, and then produces the necessary configuration files for running circos. It's about 700 lines. I'm very happy to share it, but it's certainly not ready for a drop it in anywhere, just go run it. It's going to need a little polish to work with circos. And then the possibility is that rather than having a bot that hits this website thousands of times to gather all the information, this is really the one core SQL statement for doing a query and getting that second dimension link. For a little while, I had my own extension called WhatLinksThere, but in the end, it was kind of ugly, and I'm done with that. But that much code really reduces the amount of traffic against your web server and could be useful if somebody wants to apply this to some other purpose. That's it for me. Thank you.